Hey guys, and welcome to the Invar Technologies Podcast, a podcast where we interview top-level executives inside leading and growing companies. We're excited to have our guest today, Wesley Williams. We'll be diving into a little bit about his story, a little bit about also what Daily Harvest does, and some engaging insights into the food industry. So make sure to stick around all the way to the end. I'll go ahead and just kick it off to you, Wesley. If you could just, introduce yourself and, tell a quick little snippet of your story and your background prior to working at Daily Harvest.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, starters, appreciate you having me on, Alessandro. Wesley Williams. I am the Vice President of Supply Chain for Daily Harvest. I've been in supply chain and logistics since 2010. Really got my start with a company called Coyote Logistics. Was with them for about 7 years. Was with them through their acquisition by UPS. Started with them when they were in a old defunct bank up in a little town like 40 miles north of the city, all the way through that first headquarters acquisition. And then post-acquisition, I spent 2 years there really working in like a project management role, really interfacing strictly with UPS, working with them more so on some project management and transportation optimization initiatives. Decided after a few years that wasn't where I saw my career continuing, and decided I wanted to jump onto the manufacturing side of the business. Moved up to New York City, spent about a year's time with HelloFresh leading their logistics operations. And then I had an opportunity to go back into similar freight brokerage, tech focused, freight brokerage like I was doing at Coyote Logistics, new startup, a VC wanted to throw some money at it. So did that, was with that company for about a year and a half. They were actually acquired by another private company in under 24 months. From there, did a little bit of consulting, really kicked off like my own LLC and was doing some consulting for some early stage freight brokerage startups, working with some small manufacturers, helping them build up and scale their logistics and operations departments. And landed at Away, ran global transportation at Away for almost 3 years. We were manufacturing across 7, 8 different countries in Southeast Asia, importing goods to 3 different continents, like 5 different countries, inbounding, really owning the retail distribution, brick and mortar stores. I really wasn't at that point involved in the D2C, the fulfillment aspect of our D2C, but really just kind of picked it back up and owned all the parcel and owned all of the intermediary between the inbound and getting the product to our retail stores for consumption as well. So did that for a few years. I had this opportunity at Daily Harvest present itself, jumped in with that team on the logistics side. Have been here now for about 21 months. Was specifically leading logistics the first 18 months that I was here. And the last few months, I have stepped into this more expanded role, now overseeing production, planning, sourcing, and logistics.
Awesome. I love the you definitely got quite the extensive background. It's interesting to see kind of how you the ebbs and flows of different industries that you went into, and obviously being inside the food industry as well. I'm curious, man, what is it about the operational side of things that you really like, and that you're passionate about? Because obviously that's something that you've obviously continuing to do on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, what's cool to me about operations, or what gets me up and going about operations, is the fact that there's always steady work, a steady flow of projects or challenges that we need to solve for, build process around, improve upon, right? There's that aspect of it. But what I really enjoy about the job too is the unforeseen challenges that also present themselves. It would be great to work for a top 25 or top 50 supply chain, like a Cisco Electric, I believe. Gartner rated them as having the number 1 supply chain of any organization last year. Work for a company like that where things are great, things are steady, right? But it's definitely some of that chaos that it keeps things exciting and keeps you on your toes. Being able to solve for, again, these really complex issues that you have to bring cross-functional teams together, and you have to really like lead a large organization of people to be able to drive forward. And it takes a lot of creativity to solve for those complexities, and then to be able to implement strategy or a process that can really scale to drive the needle. That's the thing that I enjoy. But again, also, just the unknown, and just being able to work with really smart and intelligent people to be able to put in place these long-term processes like we were talking about, but also know that when you're in the mud and when your back's up against the wall, you also have really smart people that will be there with you and push through with you. So that for me, operations in that sense has always been the reason, or those have been the reasons that I lean toward operations versus a sales or something of that nature.
Yeah. You definitely get your hands, I feel like with the operational side of things, you definitely get, you wear a lot of hats too, right? You're able to, you got to put out fires, you got to be able to, juggle a lot of things at once. So it's definitely, it takes a special type of person to be able to take on that role. In terms of the, the food industry, right? What type, you've been in it for a little bit now. And I'm curious to get what type of trends are you currently seeing in the market? Like what's evolving as of right now?
It's a great question. There has for a really long time now, I feel like, right, been this conversation around sustainability and how, like, we have to be sustainable and trying to get to reduce carbon emissions, and like trying to, when you think about it on the packaging front, really like how do we reduce packaging and create more ecological friendly packaging and recyclability. But what's really cool in food, and I think that it's been going on for a while now, but it's getting more attention, is the draw to regenerative agriculture, and this conversation around regenerative agriculture, and the idea that we can farm land, or we can raise livestock on land, and actually through responsible practices, we can actually leave the land better than where we found it to begin with. And so it gives to us, and right, we're able to give back and improve upon that land. And so I think that's been a big thing I've heard a significant bit about. A lot like within food too, right, is obviously inflation is a problem for everybody. Everybody's feeling it, not necessarily a problem. It's not a problem for the people who are price gouging us and saying it's inflationary, right? It's not a problem for them. But for you and I, it's a problem, right? And so it's really this, we've been having some of these really interesting conversations with like a lot of our partners around how, hearing them talk about their commitment to not wanting to like put it to their customers in a way, right, that it hurts them and hurts their pockets. A lot of the companies that we partner with are very conscientious of the fact that their price point is difficult for people, and people are having to make decisions within the store and at the counter. And at the end of the day, that hurts their bottom line, right? And so we're having these conversations around like, what can we do within the supply chain, within the operation side, to really be able to reduce and drive some of that cost. So ultimately, at the end of the day, those savings that we can create can then be offset to our customers, as well as if we're doing into distribution or direct into some of these retail partners, how they can offset some of their costs for the customers too. And so I think that's a big thing, right? Is like, how can, especially within the food space, how can we fight or create better efficiencies to drive or try to reduce some of the response to the inflation that we're all feeling?
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think, it's funny that you bring that up. So I have a family member that's in the restaurant business, and we often talk about how the food prices have gone up, right? And it's how much do you want to raise your prices while trying to be still respectful to the customers, right? Of not wanting to charge way more, but it's the reality of the situation, right? Like you said, with inflation becoming such a prominent thing that we're seeing, and also, to your point as well, kind of the sustainability side of things. And I definitely see us moving towards that direction. So I
absolutely
brought both of those up. Why don't you touch a little bit on, maybe, I don't know if Daily Harvest is really thinking about the trends and kind of how they're developing products, but why don't you tell about the audience a little bit about Daily Harvest and kind of the main products that you guys offer?
Yeah, so you won't hear us really push that we're a vegan company, but that is what we are, right? We are a plant-based vegan frozen food offering. We are primarily a D2C company. We deliver a product, subscription-based D2C product. So on a week-over-week basis, product shows up right at your door. We have since last year, the middle of last year, really been expanding into a new sales channel for us, which is within retail, the retail space. We're in 1,000+ doors with Kroger. You can find us on the East Coast with Wegmans. We just launched this week with Costco. We've got several new partnerships in the pipeline. But at the end of the day, it's our mission to make food better for people, right? And so that's what our real focus is on. We put a significant amount of focus on our data and the information that we get back from our customers and trying to hear the customers' feedback from sustainability to recipe development to everything in between. Really, at one point when I first started, like 20 months ago, one of my coworkers, when I first started, said, "Yeah, we're a data company that just says we're a food company," right? And at the time, that might have been true. We've definitely tried to get much closer and become a real food company, this CPG food brand and food manufacturer, right? And so, but that said, we do have copious amounts of data, and we are always using that to try to improve upon ourselves. We're a company that's deeply committed. You can go and you can look at the partnerships. We have them listed online, all of the partnerships that we have, and the type of work that we're doing in terms of giving underrepresented minority female farmers grants of money however they feel they can best use that, right? Like, we are a company that is deeply committed to the social aspect of what we say is important too. And so at the end of the day, man, we're trying to put out a quality product that makes people feel better. We truly believe that food is medicine, and we try to take that approach and just, again, put out this quality product that we think is going to make people feel better and be better individuals.
Yeah, I love that. I love that mission statement that you just touched on. I think that's definitely, as a food company, that's something you always want to strive for, right? At the end of the day, how are you making people feel better, and how are you, making sure that the ingredients that you're putting inside your food is going to be able to benefit people as well. But you touched on. I wanted to ask you. Obviously, you touched on some of the unique value that Daily Harvest products really bring to your consumers just right now with your previous answer. Is there anything else that you wanted to maybe add on top of that in terms of where you think there is a lot of unique value that comes with Daily Harvest's products?
Yeah. So, for me, I'm a dad. I've got 3 kids. I've got a 10-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old. Albeit my 3-year-old and 4-year-old are in very similar stages. There seems to be this world between them as well. And definitely a world between my 10-year-old, my 3-year-old and 4-year-old, and especially in the foods that they like and they eat. And that seems to be ever evolving, right? But it's really challenging, and any parent can tell you, and Alessandro, I won't make an assumption. I don't know if you have children.
Not yet.
But kids are picky eaters, man. You'll get there. There you go. One day. Don't rush it, man. Don't rush it. Kids are picky eaters, and my kids will sit down at dinner time and they'll say, "I don't want this. I'm not interested in this stuff." Something they loved yesterday, but today I don't like it. And so and then 10 minutes later, it's kind of a snack. It's always a snapping. And so what's really great about our product, man, is the fact that we do have, I think, a widespread of appeal in terms of our recipes for adults like yourself and I. For me, I need to lose a couple pounds. I want to eat something. Well, that's, to me, healthy food isn't always the best tasting food per se, but I have really leaned into a lot of our SKUs and the things that we have to offer and been able to find a lot. And over the last year, I've been able to lose 45 pounds, just leaning into that and exercise. And I don't feel hungry, I'm not like, oh, this isn't good food. It's appealing. My kids have been able to find some of the recipes in terms of our smoothies, our number one selling smoothie is our strawberry peach. My kids love it. Like anytime they ask me for a snack, they think having this healthy smoothie is a treat, right? Like I can convince them, no, we're not going to eat that candy and I'll give you a smoothie, right? And so I say that like the value proposition, I think, in really within Daily Harvest and what I think is unique and sets us apart is that we're a frozen product. We're more stable than some of these other competitors in like similar space that are a fresh product, right? You've got a very finite time to be that. Listen, we have a shelf life on our product when it's safe to consume too, don't get me wrong, but that shelf life definitely extends compared to some of our competition, right? And then being within the frozen space, we're really simple, man. Pop it in your microwave. Like we do, for example, one of my favorite items is we have these, what we call harvest bowls. The category is a harvest bowl. And so we have this chickpea coconut curry recipe that I have just been obsessed with the past 6 weeks. And it's 2 tablespoons. I just throw beef broth in there, 2 tablespoons, 3 minutes in the microwave, give it a stir, toss it in for another 90 seconds, done. In under 5 minutes, like I've got a meal. I can take it. I can prepare that meal while I'm taking this call, and like move right into it. And I don't lose
Wesley.
I don't miss a beat in my day. And so it's really the convenience factor of it, right? It's something, we have a product that I think reaches a broad appeal of consumers, regardless of where you're at in your life. Again, our product is healthy. A vast majority of our SKUs are offering organic products, like 90+% of the ingredients within those SKUs is organic. An even larger number when you drop that down to 70% of the product being organic, right? Like we're deeply committed to like actually creating food that is good for you and makes you feel better about yourself. And so again, it's just the fact that we can give that, we can offer that to people at a convenience factor, that we're omnipresent, right? That we're omni-channeled. You can find us on Instacart. You can find us spread across a number of different retailers. You can just go online and set up a recurring subscription. It's easy to skip. If you don't need it this week, just go in there and skip this week. Next time you do, we show up at your door on the weeks that you need us. Like we definitely try to give you as many options as possible to interact and consume the food the easiest way for yourself.
I always judge a product by the people who, like, if I'm talking to a business and I'm asking them about their product, it's like I like to hear when the person actually tries their product and they're actually an avid consumer. So definitely, it speaks testaments to the it's not just you're not just pushing it. I also use it, and I think that's great.
I had a friend reach out to me today. He was like, "Hey, are you guys hiring by chance?" And I was like, me personally, I've got like this one right now that I'm working through, but it's not in your wheelhouse." And she was like, honestly, I've been a loyal customer for like 3 years. And she's like, I just love the product so much. She's like, I really would love to work for you guys just based on how much I love your product, and like, that's the kind of feedback I love to hear from childhood friends that I've known for the last 25 years,
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm definitely gonna have to try some at some point because now you got me thinking. Maybe that chickpea. What was it? You said a chickpea.
Chickpea coconut curry, man. That's the one. And we've got a cremini miso. It's not grits. The cremini miso oats. That's like this other go-to. Both of those, man, I put it up against any meal that you can get in the frozen section. I put those two up against without a doubt.
Well, definitely check it out. I did want to transition a little bit and ask your opinion. Obviously, you're being in the operational side of things. You definitely have your hands on a lot of technology, and you're probably dealing with day-to-day challenge, be it technology, be it operations. But I kind of wanted to get your opinion on kind of some of the biggest challenges you really see in relationship to technology inside the food industry, and if you can kind of just touch on what you're currently seeing at the moment.
Yeah. The way I approach technology, man, is like, especially from the seat that I'm in, is like value proposition, right? And I feel like these technology companies all have this perceived value proposition. They start out, there's a problem they're going to solve for. It's an opportunity. I'm going to go build this thing. I've talked to a couple of different people. This is how it solves for them or how it works for them. But at the end of the day, a large majority of that technology is just a perceived this perceived idea that you're able to solve for my problem without having a sound understanding of what my actual problems are, or how I can apply that technology in a way that's meaningful for me, right? Just because it fit for one person doesn't mean that it fits for me per se. And so, that's more of a broader answer, I think, than like what you were asking around food technology specifically, right? But regardless of if it's food, regardless if it's something to do with my logistics, my warehousing, my ERP, something that's like, a core business system, like anything that's this bolt on, anything that, hey, we're going to be able to help you drill down on your forecast and get your demand more accurate and get your production planning. And we can help you reduce your sourcing costs by X% because of like our predictive analytic tool that works for whatever those things are, right? It's like, until I sit down and actually play with it and you have access to my information and to my data, I can't tell you definitively if there is true value in this or not. And so I really see the issue with technology, and maybe it's because the market's softer and more people are looking to drum up business and they're just more active in my email and are calling me and leaving voicemails, right? But it's just this bombardment of people trying to tell me how they can help me without actually, before they even know my issues or know my problems. And so again, it's really like, and that to me, candidly, is off-putting as a person who I think prides myself in understanding what my problems are, working with my team very hard every day to solve for those. And really understanding how business systems, technology, data really works, should work, like how you can apply those to solve for some of these challenges. When people just send me these emails and they're so far off basis, it's off-putting. Like I don't even have the time on some of these to respond. I try to as many as I can get back to you. Thanks for reaching out, but now is not the right time. But if you send me an email that's presumptive, I really don't have the time to even acknowledge it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I could definitely see that. I'm sure that, after the, you're not the only one that gets 6 or 7 emails in the inbox every single day, right? That happens on an ongoing basis as well.
Absolutely.
For me. But in terms of operating, a food company, what would you say that some of the challenges that typically kind of come up with that? And if you have any advice that has really served you well and really be avoiding some of those common pitfalls?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, for one, like being in food, the one of the most challenging things that we try to solve for and face for on a daily basis is just ensuring that our food is meeting a food safety and quality, from a food safety and quality perspective, that our product is safe to consume, right? And the fact that I'm sitting, me personally, I sit at a home office in Chicago. My headquarters is in New York. We manufacture, between California, Texas, and Illinois. And the fact that, we aren't there physically every day with our product as it's being made and manufactured, right, into a finished good that somebody can consume. It's really making sure that we have a lot of controls and processes and trust in our relationships built into that to ensure the highest quality products that are safe to consume. Because at the end of the day, I want a high quality product. Of course, I want that. But I can't sleep at night if I know that my product has made someone ill. And candidly, we had a food recall when I first joined, and it was difficult, right? It was challenging, and we got through that, right? But those are the things that you truly do lose sleep about at night when if someone ever gets injured or sick from your own product. Like, I think from a consumer perspective, it's hard to see that sometimes. How could that brand do that? But the people who are responsible for that, the people who are solving for those challenges and trying to control for those challenges, they care about you. Those are people too, like those are people that have families, that have children, that have mothers, that have fathers, that never want that to happen, and so that to me is like the first thing. And I'm sorry, Alessandro, I kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but could you ask me the question again? I lost track of where I was going.
It was more around just trying to understand some of the common pitfalls inside of in operating.
Sorry.
Yeah, no,
I'm
you're
there again. I'm with you. Yeah, so outside of that, right, the food safety and quality assurance, like that's the number one. But the common pitfalls, man, like a big part of that is around planning. It's around contract management. It's around like, structuring these contracts in a way that account for ebbs and flows, right? And it's structured in a way that is going to continue to have a net positive on your cash flow. And like, right, it's like, I think it's a big, you were asking like within food, what is like a challenge in food manufacturing, right? It's like, I don't know the people doing their due diligence always on the CapEx investment and return. Like it's expensive to stand up manufacturing sites and to invest in manufacturing equipment, right? And like if your forecast is not 100% accurate or as close to 100% accurate as possible, right? Like really understanding what the ROI and the cost that's going to go into those things are. And so I think it's really specifically in food, I think in manufacturing in general, it's important to have people who have the experience around you, who understand what some of this nuance is. What are some of the things that we might be overlooking? Look, I'm a big proponent, a big believer in smart people can solve for challenges and regardless of what you throw them into. But if they don't have the experience to be able to look around the corners and know, where those 100 balls that are always in the air might drop, right? If they don't have that experience, that's not their problem. That's a leadership problem. The fact that those are unaccounted for, right? So I think those are some of the pitfalls, right? Making sure that you just have the right people in the right place. How have I solved for those? How have I tried to solve for those? Definitely, hiring is hard. It's like getting the right people is really hard. Vetting people throughout the hiring process is, it's really hard. I always try to double click on, I try to listen, very diligently when I'm doing my interviews and hearing people talk through the situational questions that we pose to them or some of their experience. And hey, give me an example of this, right? And then I just try to drill down more into that to understand what was your real involvement? Were you actually involved or were you someone that just stood on the sideline and watched it happen? Because and I'm not saying that you did that because you're not a diligent worker. Maybe you just weren't given the opportunity to be involved at that point. No one asked you to step in, right? And you can just regurgitate back to me what you saw others do. I need to know that you've actually been involved. And so really trying to make sure that we're being sound in our hiring process is something that we've worked really hard on to try to avoid some of these pitfalls. And then again, man, making sure that our planning and building close relationships with my finance team to understand what is our top line, how does that translate to demand, how is that demand translating to production and materials planning, right? Like just building very close, tight processes with all the cross-functional teams that we need to in order to get to success. And then, look, we're going to mess up. We're not going to get it right all the time. Raising our hand and admitting when we've gotten it wrong, right, is another one that we're big on. And then let's take some accountability. Like we need transparency. What went wrong, right? I need to root cause. And now, how can we ensure that this doesn't happen again? That's the other thing. I don't expect you to get it right all the time, but I don't expect you to do the same thing wrong on more than one occasion.
Definitely. And I think that's a great advice, right? I think understanding that people make mistakes, right? You're going to make mistakes. You're going to continue to make mistakes. I'm going to continue to make mistakes. So obviously people make mistakes, but are we learning from them? Are we learning from the things that we do wrong? And are we making sure that we're putting measures in place to make sure they don't happen again? I think that's a great part about leadership as well. But, what's the vision for the next 12 months for, yourself and Daily Harvest? I don't like to go a little bit too long, but the next 12 months, what does that look like?
Yeah. No, honestly, like last year we were really in growth mode. We were pushing to be in growth mode. We were launching into this new sales channel in retail, right? Our innovation pipeline. We had a couple new categories that we rolled out. This year we still have product innovation. There are still new recipes in our pipeline, but we're really in this improvement year for us over the next 12 months. It's really around honing in and trying to improve upon what we already have, right? A lot of continuous improvement on the recipe development side, a lot of continuous improvement in terms of, look, we want to acquire as many new customers as possible, right? But I really want to maximize the lifetime value of each of those customers. And so we're really like trying in terms of how we're applying cash into marketing, into innovation, into operations, into different parts of the business. We're really saying, hey, this year we really need to make sure that we are adding as much value to these customers, these existing customers that we have as possible, that our product is meeting their expectations and is a top notch. And so this year, really, for the next 12 months for us, it's really just a focus of improvement and trying to get better, right? Again, going back to the data aspect, really sitting down and understanding the data that we have access to say, this is where we need to put our prioritization to improve upon the product. We really see 24 for us less as a growth year and more as an improvement year.
Got it. Yeah, no, 100%. I think there's ebbs and flows and everything, right? You got to, once you take on more, you get that growth, and it's about being able to stabilize, right? And it's like, okay, can we handle this?
Yeah, and look, we've got a sales team. We've got new retailers in the pipeline. Like, don't get me wrong, we're growing, and we have a team that's focused on that growth. But we really just want to make sure that we're putting out, especially from the operation side, we're putting out the highest quality product that we possibly can to all the customers that interact with Daily Harvest.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see what Daily Harvest continues to grow into, man. It definitely sounds like, you guys are on the right track, and I like the way that you're thinking about the company and kind of the vision that you have for it as well. You've been dropping a couple of, nuggets of wisdom throughout the podcast, but I usually like to, end on a loaded question, where I kind of just ask, what are the most important things you've learned in your career, Wesley, that you'd be willing to share with the audience?
Yeah, I think for me, man, being humble and being honest is like really important. Raising your hand and saying, look, I know these things, this is in my toolkit. I don't know these things, right? But and being humble enough to admit that and say, I know when to ask for help, and then know how to track down information and always be willing to learn, right? And so, look, I just stepped into this new expanded role, like we talked about earlier in the segment. I understand how sourcing works. I understand how manufacturing works. I understand how planning works. But am I a subject matter expert in any one of those particular things like I am, like I consider myself to be on the logistic front? No, I'll be the first one to admit it, right? But I'm working with my teams every single day to build that process, to replicate where I've had success in my career, to evaluate risk and apply those things. And just every day I show up humbly, ready to learn and learn from our partners. I think that's really important, right? I think people, I'm also a big proponent of timing and I said this earlier, so it's a little redundant, but being honest, right? Like not forcing yourself into situations that you're not ready or you cannot be successful or you cannot add value, right? Timing is everything. And look, I'll be the first one to admit I've faked the funk in my past life at some point in my career and said, I can do this, knowing damn well I had no idea what I was doing. And it turned out exactly how I should have envisioned or known that it was going to turn out, right? Like it turned out great for me. And that's okay. But that was, again, in itself, it was a humbling experience. And the thing I learned from that was like not forcing it, not forcing the timing, right? Like the things that I want through hard work, heads down, being smart, being a good coworker, being a smart coworker, being good at my job, like I'll get to the places that I'm trying to get to. Everyone's journey is not your journey. Everyone's timing is not your timing, right? Like what you're capable of, how you're going to get there. So don't cheat the system. Don't cheat the process. Definitely just work toward it.
Definitely. I love it. I think that's phenomenal advice and something that I try to abide by as well. It's all about, like you said, in your point, paying your dues, right? Getting that necessary experience in, getting those reps in, because that's what kind of builds the character, builds you. And at the end of the day, that's the most important person. Like the highest ROI that you'll get out of anything is always will be investing in yourself, right? Investing in your experience in doing the reps that will build that along the way. So
I've got a good friend who always says, I laugh at him because it's corny, but it's true. Every day is a school day, right? Like nothing changes. Every day, doesn't matter if you're a kid, if you're an adult, every day is a school day. Show up ready to learn humbly.
Definitely. Well, hey, Wesley, if people are listening to this and they want to either reach out to yourself or your team, what are the best ways to kind of go about that?
Yeah, check out the website, obviously, www.daily-harvest.com. That's how you can interact with our product. If you don't want to, if you're not willing to commit or not ready to commit to a subscription, you can we have like single box options on the website you could try as well, right? So that's how you can definitely interact with the product. You can find us in any of your retail stores. Full list is right on our website as well, of the stores that you can find us in. But for me personally, the best way to get in contact with me is going to be directly through LinkedIn. That's how you can engage with me directly. I'm pretty active on that platform. Not hard to find. Wesley Williams, that's the best way to get in touch with me.
Got it. Well, I'll make sure to include both of those in the description. Thank you again, Wesley, for coming on. You did a phenomenal job. And if you guys did make it all the way to the end, we do appreciate if you can like, comment, and subscribe for more content. And we hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks again, Wesley. Take care.
Thanks, Alessandro.